I want to welcome you all here. I am overwhelmed by the turnout. I really am. We had this thought to use this upstairs hall, and it's overwhelming, the turnout we've had today. And I want to thank you all for being here. And I want to... I'm sure Arthur Pollard's very proud today. I will now turn the microphone over to my friend Buzzy Blinn, who is I guess I'll call him the Dean of the Board of Selectmen. How many terms have you been on the board, Buzz? 7? It's got to be a record of some kind, Buzz. Then I'll turn it over to Buzzy to say a few words of welcome.
Thank you, Barry, for that great introduction. It's been great serving Plaistow, and today's even a special day. Seeing all these people here and the veterans does my heart good, and I'm so glad I'm here. And for everybody here, I want to welcome them and hope they have a great time, and I'm really proud of you, so thank you.
One of the first things we're going to do today is to pledge to the flag, which is highly obviously appropriate. And for many years, I have stood before you at Memorial Day, and we've had services outside, and many people have spoken. And for a change, I have a few words I want to say at the beginning today, and following these, I will call on a veteran, Roy Jeffrey, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. My comments are that Memorial Day is neither a celebration of death nor a glorification of war, but a commendation of lives well spent. It is an acknowledgement of the idealism of youth and the nobility of sacrifice. And it is an expression of our profound gratitude to these men and women. But how do you thank these men and women? What do you say? Thanks for getting blown up on some nameless Pacific island, or getting crucified on some barbed wire, or thanks for stepping on a landmine in the DMZ, or for being shot down over Europe, or for being bayoneted stopping a charge up Cemetery Ridge. No, we shouldn't. If we could speak to these heroes directly, we should say, thank you for saving our nation, for protecting our glorious experiment in democracy and human rights, and for allowing those you left behind to walk this land as free men and women. As long as the flag you fought under flies, your sacrifice will not be forgotten. These virtues we need to recover and remember, so that doing this here today, under the picture of Abraham Lincoln up to my left, in Lincoln's own words, our honored dead shall not have died in vain. Can I call on Mr. Roy Jeffrey now to lead us in a pledge to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Roy. You may all be seated. Could I next call on the chaplain of the Post 34, Carl J. Davis, to lead us in a prayer? Charlie Maines.
Let us pray. Almighty God, give of all victories we thank Thee for the opportunities which abide in our land, for the guidance in the hours of pure and Thy tender love in time of need. Help us to remember the reverence, the vow, and the devotion of our departed comrades, not only those who bought us consecrate our country soils, but also those who sleep beyond the sea, and those others who rest in peace will not be known until the last day, when the deep will have given up indeed and dead. Our God, teach us to honor them by every cherishing the idea for which they fought. Keep us steadfast in the cause of human rights and liberty, of law and order, and true Americanism. Give us power to see the will to do right. Grant that the American Legion may preserve the high ideals for which our comrades died. May they mercifully blessing rest upon thy left behind. Keep us forever firm in righteousness, humble in heart, and unselfish in purpose. Amen.
Could I now call on Bob Gray, member of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Plaistow, New Hampshire, to say a few words? Bob?
Thank you, Barry. I just wanted to take a couple of moments. First of all, if Audrey is in the house, Audrey is our selectman secretary. She helped put together all of these citations that we're going to be handing to you later on, and I just wanted to publicly thank her for doing that. Thank you very much. There is a reason why the men sitting up here to my right are called the greatest generation. And we, in our generation, we hardly know the evil and the horror that you people saw during World War II. And we hardly know what it is to be ordered to move from trench to trench, or from forest to forest, or to be ordered to take a mountain and not knowing what on that mountain may lie, someplace maybe in Italy, maybe someplace in Switzerland, maybe someplace in France. We don't know what it's like to be ordered to have some nameless island in the middle of the South Pacific to be ordered to go and take, and not knowing what's on that island and what waits. But I just wanted to take a brief moment to say thank you from my generation to your generation. I salute you, and I thank you for all of the people who have their tomorrows, for the people who did not come back for their tomorrows. So I wanted to publicly thank you, and again, I salute you for all that you've done for America. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Part of our program usually involves our younger generations. And for this program here today, I'm going to call upon Kate Gardella to read a poem for us. Kate? Kate is a senior at Timberlane Regional High School.
Have you ever looked, really looked at a soldier's face? Sometimes it's young, barely an adult, the hopes of youth still painted in its features. Sometimes it's old, older than faith, older than wisdom, older than time. And sometimes it's a bit of both all at once. Sometimes it's gritty and pained, remembering the face of another who has fallen. Sometimes it's laughing, pleased to have a moment of peace. Most of the time, it's proud because it knows, oh yes, it knows, the world is a different place, a better place because of it. Next time you look at a soldier's face, see if you can find that glint of pride. Sometimes it's hidden, and you have to search it out. You'll find it in the eyes, always in the eyes. For the eyes are indeed the windows to the soul, even a soldier's soul. And when you've carefully examined every feature of that soldier's face, stand up straight and tall and smile your best smile. Thank that soldier, because it does what some cannot or will not. It defends what it believes to be right with its very life. But more important, it defends a perfect stranger, you. And when you see a flag-covered casket, stand in memoriam of all the soldiers' faces you've examined. For when one of them falls, they all fall. And when one of them stands, they all stand. Shouldn't we stand with them?
Thank you, Kate. Next, I'd like to call on a very good friend of mine, We've been doing this for many years, and his name is Norman Major, and he is our state representative, and I proudly bring up Norm Major.
Thank you, Barry. And I want to thank all you guys, World War II survivors. On December 7th, 1941, Japan bombed the American naval base at Pearl Harbor. 4 days later, Hitler declared war on the United States. Likewise, President Roosevelt called on Congress and the United States to declare war on Germany and Japan. Almost 13 million Americans were in uniform at the end of the war, August 15, 1945, 65 years ago. An estimated 30 million people died because of that war. Over 400,000 American veterans were killed in action. Because of our veterans, Europe has enjoyed 65 years of peace, something that hasn't happened since the days of the Roman Empire. Still, over 400,000 mothers and fathers lost their sons in battle. Some were killed in action, and thousands were missing in action, and many of these were never accounted for. As we gather this Memorial Day with our families and friends and celebrate this holiday, let us not forget those who made the ultimate sacrifice. World War II was an event that unified the people of our nation like any other time in our history. While our veterans fought on the front lines, millions of other Americans served at the home front, providing the necessary support and equipment for those in the uniform. Who were these soldiers in uniform? They were called Yanks, NGIs, Swabbies, and Flyboys. They were Whacks and Waves, Leathernecks, and just plain Joes. But here at home, we had other names for them, like Mom, Dad, Son and Daughter, Brother and Sister. Today is indeed a very special day for all of us, but particularly for those who served in World War II. We dedicate this day to the many New Hampshire World War II veterans who gave so much and some the ultimate sacrifice. We must never forget them. But let us also use this occasion to remember and honor the 60 World War II veterans still living in Plaistow, many of whom are sitting up front today, and we are very proud of that. These men and women volunteered for military service because they believe in the destiny and promise of the American dream and essentially goodness of America. All of our World War II soldiers fought to preserve democracy and freedom, not just in America, but all around the world. That's why our veterans deserve the best we can give them. They deserve our highest honor and deepest gratitude. So much of the freedom and prosperity that the present generations now take for granted was guaranteed by these World War II veterans. The ones that we honor here today and all the veterans of World War II. You have made tremendous sacrifice to preserve our democratic way of life. All of you express your willingness to lay down your life for your country the first day you put on that uniform. In that courageous sacrifice and love of our country that we cherish and honor today. We must never forget to say thank you. The citations signed by the state and town officials to be given to you this morning is a small way for the Plaistow community to say thanks. As your representative, I am proud to be here to honor you for your service to our country and our community, and I wholeheartedly thank you.
Every once in a while, when you're putting on a celebration like this, you get an unexpected surprise. And a young lady that I knew many years ago approached me today, And she offered to sing the Star Spangled Banner. And I said, well, we have no musical accompaniment. And she said, that's okay. So I'm going to call on Pauline Dupree to sing the Star Spangled Banner.
I really didn't expect to be here, but I'll tell you, it's a true honor to be in this audience and to see all you wonderful vets. I wished years ago I could have served. I didn't have the courage that you have. So it's an honor to be able to sing the Star Spangled Banner for you people today. Would you please all stand? I've never done this not to music, so God help me, please. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail as the star, twilight starts gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave? I started too low.
Always a pleasant surprise like that. Next, I'll call on Michelle Curran, another member of our Board of Selectmen, to say a few words. Michelle? You can clap. That's perfectly all right.
Thank you, Barry. I thought long and hard about this day for several months. Roy Jeffries and Tom Cumberland had come in over the course of a time telling us how much they wanted to recognize the veterans in our town. And you may think to yourself, well, you're kind of young. What do you really have to say that you could say that hasn't been said before? And you're right. I don't have words that haven't been spoken today, but I did want to make sure that you understood what the word thank you means. Duty, honor, and responsibility were words you heard when you were growing up. They're the reason that you stepped forward and the reason that you joined in to make our nation what it is. Duty, honor, and responsibility are still words that are very, very important to us today for so many different reasons. I think that our generation has so much to learn from you gentlemen and you women who stayed home and kept the fires burning and wrote the letters and lost a lot of loves that never came back. I listened for hours and hours stories from my grandfather and my step-grandfather who served alongside you gentlemen. I've known many men, my neighbors, my brothers, my father, different people in our community, and I think sometimes we get so caught up in our everyday lives that we stop looking at you for what you really are, true heroes. You become the doctors and lawyers and people that work in a service station or whatnot. It is with great honor, gentlemen, that I am here today to welcome you to our town hall and to speak from the heart. I thought long and hard of putting many, many words on paper, but once again, how do you find the words to honor men like yourselves? Thank you so much for being here today to let us honor you on this Memorial Day, which we're proud to honor you any day, but to get to know a few of you, speak with a few of you, hear some of your stories. This is truly an honor, and I hope that this will be an honor for generations to come, that we can teach our children that no matter what happens in history from this day forth, that we always need to go back and remember what the gentlemen, your brothers, your friends gave to us to enjoy these freedoms. And I agree, we don't respect or deserve the freedoms that we have today in a lot of ways. We have no idea at the end of the day what has been given up for us to enjoy the simple pleasure of being able to speak in public, to be able to go spend money the way we do. There's so many different things. And again, from the bottom of my heart, gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here today. It has been an honor to speak with you today and to have you, you get me all excited. My Uncle Jake's here today. He came over from Atkinson to be part of this celebration. He too is a World War II veteran, as well as my Aunt Una was also. They've been honored in Atkinson many times. Privileged to have you here today. But I wanted to speak from my heart so that you knew what an honor it is. And thank you. Please remember to tell your grandchildren, tell your sons, tell your daughters, share your stories as much as you can, because there will be a time that we may not honor you the way we should, and I would hate to see that happen. So I think it's very important for you to continue. Thank you for all being here to share part of our day and allow me to speak from my heart.
Thank you, Michelle. Next, I'm going to call on Gerard Marchand, the first Vice Commander of the Department of Massachusetts AMVETS, to say a couple of words. Following that, we will give out the certificates to the World War II veterans. We will have a closing benediction and then refreshments. Gerard Marchand.
Good morning, gentlemen. Standing here thinking of what to say, all I can say is thank you. As a veteran myself, I was born after you gentlemen served. I served during the Vietnam era on submarines in the North Atlantic, protecting us from the Cold War and the Russians. It is my privilege as First Vice Commander for the State Department of Massachusetts and also past Commander of AMVETS Post 147 to offer you membership in AMVETS at no charge to you. As a thank you for the service you had rendered to us to provide us with the freedoms that we have today. I will present you with a letter from the post and an application and present it back to me, and we will induct you into AMVETS in the fall of 2011 and hopefully continue that for the remainder of your surviving World War II. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to read to you while they're getting ready the names of the World War II veterans from Plaistow, New Hampshire. Alfred Oraskowitz, Helen Ayers, Richard Ayers, Theodore Barrett, Frank Carley, Edward Carifio, Linwood Clay, Robert Clay, William Connery, Thomas Connolly, Charles Cooper, Thomas Cullen, William Donovan, Howard Driscoll, Francis Gigliotti, Stanley Gerd, Carl Gleed, Kenneth Glover, Gerard Guilfoyle, Alvin Hall, William Hallahan, Ferris Holmes, Paul Holmes, William Ingalls, Thomas Ingham, Roy Jeffrey, Donald Jollimore, Robert Kiley, Norman LaBranche, Leo LaCroix, Joseph LaCroix, Albert Lipinskis, Theodore Lavoie, Robert Litwinovich, George Mangus, Andrew Mangus, James McCusker, Renee McGilvery, Edward McKenzie, Joseph Millett, Warren Parsons, Norman Potter, Norman Ray, William Raymond, Harold Rice, Bafsito Ronaldo, Joseph Ritchie, Robert Rokeson, John Rubner, Ernest Ruddy, Benjamin Sadowitz, William Sanborn, Bernard Senner, Wilfred Center, Ernest Sheltry, Myron Sorensen, Glenn Smith, Galen Stalker, Alan Stone, Robert Thistle, Albert Waite, and Neil Walker. Let's give them all a big round of applause. Also, Carl Faxon. Carl L. Faxon is here today, too. I'm going to have John Sherman, another member of our Board of Selectmen, to read the citations that are on the certificates that all the veterans will be getting.
Thank you, Barry. I'm reading from the citation that each one of these gentlemen will receive. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, or oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty. President John F. Kennedy. Official Pride of Plaistow citation. In honor, I won't speak New England for a second. In honor and recognition of your service to the citizens of the town of Plaistow, the state of New Hampshire, and the United States of America, presented to each one of these gentlemen, in witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused to be affixed the great seal of the town of Plaistow, this 31st day of May 2010, signed by His Excellency, the Governor of the State of New Hampshire, John H. Lynch, each member of the Board of Selectmen, Daniel J. Poliquin, Charles L. Boleyn Jr., John A. Sherman, Robert J. Gray, Michelle Curran, by the town managers, Sean Fitzgerald, and by our New Hampshire State Representative, Norman Major. Thank you.
The first one we have is for Edward Carifio. Would you please stand? Okay. Anyone in the family wish to accept? It's nice to see our town manager performing a good service. Next one we have is for another close friend of mine, Thomas Cullen. Tom, please stand. You notice Tom always has a lot to say. Tom, you're not running for office again, are you? Yeah. Next one we have is for Carl Gleed. Carl Gleed, would you please stand? Next one is for Kenneth Glover. Next one I have, before I announce his name, if I say he's my former baseball coach, I think he's going to know what I mean. William Hallahan. I might also add that Bill Hallahan is a Pearl Harbor survivor. Next on our list is William Ingalls. Mr. Ingalls, would you please stand? Next is Thomas Ingham. Thomas Ingham. Next one I have is for the gentleman who led us in a Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and did a fine job, Roy Jeffrey. Donald Jollimore. Please stand. Donald. Donald Jollimore. Next on our agenda, we have a gentleman who, as I remember correctly, when I was a younger child, used to cut my hair. Norman LeBranch. That was the Branch's Barbershop over in Westville, that little red building over there. I think it's now a psychic shop. I'm not sure how it goes from a barber shop to a psychic shop. Maybe Norman could share that with us someday. Next is Leo LaCroix. Next is Albert Lipinskis. From my hometown of Westville. That's the other side of the tracks, in case you don't know what that means. Next, we have Robert Litwinovich. Next on my list is George Mangus. Followed by Andrew Mangus. You have two names, sir, right? There you go. There you go. I understand, sir. Next, we have James McCusker. Joseph Millette. Warren Parsons. Warren Parsons is being received by his grandson, Jay Kochelaris. Harold Rice. Next is Ernest Ruddy. Benjamin Sadowitz. And from a long-standing family in town, we have Bernard Center. And also from the Center family, Wilfred Center. If anyone needs a car part, I'm sure he can help you get one. Next is a close friend of mine who served on many committees with me, Ernest Sheltree. Gentleman who's lived on Main Street for many years, Myron Sorensen. Is anyone from his family here? That's Bobby Sorensen, one of his lovely daughters. And both lovely daughters. Yes, Buzzy and I went to school with both of those girls. We can tell you that. Why do we do that, Buzz?
Because it keeps you happy.
There you go.
Keeps you young.
Yeah. Next on our list is Galen Stalker. Okay. Galen Stalker. Do we have a plaque for Carol Faxon? Okay. We now have other names to mention of plaques that will be mailed to these gentlemen. Carol Faxon, Maurice Jake Collins, Marlon Collins, and Joseph LaCroix. Next on the list would be Paul Holmes. Is there anyone else up here we've missed? Yeah, or a member from the family? No? Okay. I guess we successfully managed our way through that. I will next call on another member of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. John Sherman.
Thank you, Barry. I'd like to thank everyone that came out today to honor these gentlemen. It's a pretty simple reason why we're here. What they accomplished is the greatest achievement in the history of humankind, isn't it? Is there anything else even close? When you heard Norm Major's remarks, one of the first things that he said is we're here to honor the World War II survivors. It brings up an issue that I have every year when I refer to these gentlemen as heroes. And they say, no, we're not the heroes. The heroes are the ones that didn't come back. We're the survivors. Okay, I'll give in. I'll concede. In that case, I'm glad you gentlemen weren't heroes. I'm glad you were survivors so that you could come back and lead our country, lead our community into sharing the sense of liberty that you won for us. Thank you very much. One practical bit of information, one of the other selectmen said to me, gee, a few people have come up and said, how do we get the, or what do we know about the veterans exemption that you can get on your property taxes? We're honored to give that exemption. Gentlemen or members of the family, these folks are entitled to an exemption on their property taxes. Come into town hall as soon as you can. You'll be referred to the assessing office, which is over there, but just ask downstairs, and you'll have some paperwork to fill out. What a surprise. But you are entitled to a property tax break, and you have earned it. And it's something we are quite willing to give. I think I speak pretty well. I think I can rub some words together and form sentences and paragraphs pretty well. But every now and then, you read something that summarizes what you want to say better than anything that you could put together. So I quote from a tremendous book that each of you should look at. It's full of unbelievable stories. The Second Generation, written by Tom Brokaw. And I quote from that book. At a time in their lives when their days and nights should have been filled with innocent adventure, love, and the lessons of the workaday world, they were fighting in the most primitive conditions possible across the bloodied landscape of France, Belgium, Italy, Austria, and the coral islands of the Pacific. They answered the call to save the world from the two most powerful and ruthless military machines ever assembled, instruments of conquest in the hands of fascist maniacs. They faced great odds and a late start, but they did not protest. They succeeded on every front. They won the war. They saved the world. They came home to joyous and short-lived celebrations and immediately began the task of rebuilding their lives and the world they wanted. They married in record numbers and gave birth to another distinctive generation, the baby boomers. A grateful nation made it possible for more of them to attend college than any society had ever educated anywhere. They gave the world new science, literature, art, industry, and economic strength unparalleled in the long curve of history. As they now reach the twilight of their adventures and productive lives, they remain, for the most part, exceptionally modest. They have so many stories to tell, stories that in many cases they have never told before, because in a deep sense, they didn't think that what they were doing was that special, because everybody else was doing it too. Thank you.
In a couple of minutes, I'm going to ask and have a couple of the veterans say a few words if they wish. And before then, I'm going to call on a gentleman that I've gotten to know in the last year and a half. I've heard he's a good man, although he is a Flatlander from Massachusetts. I have to give him credit for that. And he's come up here to New Hampshire to try to spread his education and knowledge. I'm going to call on the town manager to say a few words, Sean Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Barry. I was hoping you'd keep the Massachusetts out of the program. I will be very brief. As a town manager, my responsibilities are broad. I have to negotiate the contracts for solid waste and make sure the streets are plowed. But 8 weeks ago, Roy Jeffries and Tom Cullen came in to the Board of Selectmen. They wanted earnestly to put a program together that could help demonstrate our gratitude and appreciation for the 65th anniversary for the ending of World War II. And I've worked with these gentlemen every week over the last 8 weeks, and they have been a true inspiration. They have come in and shared stories of their personal time during World War II and their sacrifices. They've talked about their colleagues that didn't come back. And as I think about Memorial Day and I think of my family members, as I think of my 23-year-old neighbor who lost her husband 3 years ago in Iraq, I am profoundly touched by the gratitude that this town has. You're a town of 8,000, but you've got a heart of a city of 100,000. To have this hall filled with your respect and your gratitude for these men and women that have poured everything that they have had to offer into protecting our freedoms. I can just very simply and profoundly say thank you. I have a 15-month-old son, and I promise you, he will always remember, he will always know of your sacrifices and those that never came back. Thank you for everything you've done for me and for this town and for our nation.
I next want to call on a special person that I've gotten to know in the last few months, actually. His name is Dr. Robert Varnum. He is the pastor of the First Baptist Church here in Plaistow, New Hampshire, and he's going to give us a benediction.
It's a dangerous thing to give a preacher or a politician the last word. So I'll keep it short, but I wanted to note that Norman had his USS Wasp hat on, and my father served aboard the Hornet, the sister ship. My father was sunk with the Hornet. He was a Pearl Harbor survivor because the Hornet wasn't there. And then he was aboard the USS Princeton, and he was sunk with the Princeton. I'm very fortunate to be here today. Let us pray. Gracious God, on this Memorial Day weekend, we remember and give thanks to those who have given their lives to the service of our country. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward and did their duty to defend the freedoms that we enjoy and to win the same for others. O God, you who have given yourself have taught us that no greater love that there is than one who gives himself for another. Our honored dead give a most precious gift that they had, life itself, and the survivors also have given us life, and they stand here today before us as a testimony. Help us to honor their memory and these who live and their families by ensuring that all comrades who have been properly cared for are and watchful caretakers of the freedom that have given us our ongoing lives and have lived up to the demands that no other young men and women have had to follow in that great war. Holy One, help us to remember that freedom is not free. There are times when its cost is indeed dear. Let us never forget those who paid so terrible a price to ensure that freedom would be our legacy. Their names may fade, but not be forgotten among the passings of generations. Help us to be worthy of their sacrifice. O God, help us to be worthy. Amen.
I'm going to now call on Roy Jeffrey to say a few words, and any other World War II veteran who'd like to speak. Roy, why don't you come up first?
Last October, when the thought came to me that this year would mark the 65th anniversary of the end of World War II in Europe and Japan, I wondered what could be done
to recognize the World War II veterans living in Plaistow. Our youngest veterans will be 82 years of age. There are fewer of them among us, and fewer still able to travel and share their stories. Throughout the country, World War II veterans are dying at the rate of 1,000 each day. We remember December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese Air Force and Navy attacked the United States Naval Base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Soon after, the Japanese struck the American bases in Guam, Midway, and Wake. Some of those veterans are here today. We remember D-Day, June 6, 1944, when 160,000 Allied troops and 30,000 vehicles landed on a 50-mile front of French coastline and began fighting on the beaches of Normandy, Omaha, Kane, and Utah. Some of those veterans are here today. Victory in Europe. May 8, 1945 became to be known as VE Day, Victory in Europe. The war ended in the Pacific in August of 1945 when the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This became known as VJ Day, Victory over Japan. I called on Tom Cullen to get his advice on what we could do. If you want to know anything about Plaistow, ask Tom. Thanks, Tom. Thank you for your years of service to the town. Tom was willing to work with me. Our first hurdle was to locate World War II veterans living in Plaistow. There is no official record other than the tax collector record listing all veterans who received the tax exemption on their real estate tax bill. With this data, we set out to identify the World War II veterans. With the help of the American Legion, we spent many afternoons making telephone calls or knocking on doors to locate World War II veterans. The first results showed 53 names of veterans living in Plaistow. Next, we approached the Board of Selectmen and the town manager for their input. After several meetings, here we are today. There are numerous people to salute. Representative Norman Major, who was our contact with Governor John Lynch. We are so fortunate in having a leader like Representative Major in Concord. Thank you, Norm, for your years of service. To our former town manager, Barry Sargent, thank you, Barry, for your years of service and for assisting us with this project. Go ahead, Nicole. To the Board of Selectmen, Dan Poliquin, Buzzy Blinn, Michelle Kern, Bob Gray, and John Sherman. For those of you who do not know, John Sherman has just returned from sick leave. Keep well, John. We need you to serve us.
Thank you.
And the town manager, Sean Fitzgerald. It has been a pleasure working with you. We couldn't have done it without you. And to all the staff at the town hall, Audrey DiProspero, where's Audrey? You are a sweetheart. Believe me. To Ruth Jenny, the town clerk's office, the tax collector's office, the assessor's office, and the highway department. Please notice how nice the collard green looks after their care. Thanks to Bernadine Fitzgerald and Brenda Major for the flowers on the outside. Thank you, they're beautiful. To the American Legion, Mike Taylor, Phil Sturck, Charles Maines, Terry Marsh, he's around the corner there somewhere he was, and Rick Bickerstaff. Maybe they've left. They'll put in their appointment. To the Plaistow Historical Society, Gene Smith, Diane Robinson, and Bob Hobbs for setting up the uniform display. A special thanks to Kohl's Department Store in Plaistow for use of the mannequins to display the uniforms. Thanks to the Plaistow Library for allowing us to display some of World War II memorabilia. Thanks to Kate Gardella for being part of our program. Kate is a senior at Timberlane Regional High School and a member of the Historical Honor Society at the school. Thanks to Dr. Robert Farnham of the First Baptist Church for participating today. A warm Plaistow welcome to you and Mrs. Farnham. Last but not least, I want to thanks to my wife for putting up with me or not putting up with me for the last few weeks. My apologies if I've missed anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. It's hard to keep a good man down, and I can see him approaching right now. I go back with you to the 70s when you and I were on the Board of Selectmen. Tom Cullen.
Thank you, Barry. For those who don't know, Barry, I, and Norman Major were all selectmen at the same time. We had the privilege and the honor of serving this town, and you see, we're still here, and we're doing what we can. It has never changed. Anyhow, for God and country, we associate ourselves for the following purposes: to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Those are the starting words of the preamble of the American Legions, and every meeting we say that. Can you imagine the people from World War I, after 1919 in Paris, France, getting together, the generals, and in fact, Teddy Roosevelt Jr. was in with that group of people. And they initiated the American Legion. That was the start of our Legion. Post number 1, still in Paris, France, still well attended, and well, big membership. And those boys coming home, they never forgot what war was about. In my book, they weren't treated very well. And most of us, I'm talking about the men and their wives, who lived through the Depression. And it was hard, perhaps, for the country to do something for those boys. And at the end of World War II, thanks to those men, they passed on a gift to us. It was alluded to today about the education. That was something that they had because now they had some power. They had votes. They had people that were going to join the military, the organizations, and Congress generously, after being pushed quite a bit by all the veterans organizations that have been passed over, we might say, for whatever reason. And we are the recipients of those gifts. And we are trying to pass on something for our young men that are in the service. Between World War II and now, we have had more conflicts than we like to talk about. But for God's sakes, no matter what we do, we can never forget these gentlemen here, men and women, that are willing to do what they can for their country. And it has been one hell of an honor to work with Roy. He was the spark plug for this getting together. And you look, I can tell you, we sat here at some meetings, and I don't think we had this big a crowd at town meeting. Thank you all. We love you right from the bottom of our heart. God bless.
Yes, Mrs. Hallahan, you certainly can. What would you like to say?
Old soldiers never die. They just fade away.
Well, before they all fade away, I'm going to give any of them and all of them a chance to say something if they'd like to speak. Paul Holmes?
Yes, just a few words. That we should remember the only veteran, the only Plaistow native that was killed in action in a tank corps, Stanley Chadwick. We must remember him here today. I can still see him riding his bicycle down on the sidewalk. He's 16 and he hasn't changed a bit because old soldiers never die.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate everything that everyone is doing. And there are two thank yous that I think have been left out. That I think of my dad. He picked up a record at a record shop, and it was Helen Kane singing, "Thank you, Mother, thank you, Father." And it was quite a song, and I'll never forget it. But those are a couple of thank yous, and we thank you for everything you're doing here.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Barry. To those of you who have never been seasick, when my ship, the Joseph E. Campbell, retired from active service, we became a troop carrier. And we'd pick up these young kids, and they're all scared silly. And the first night out to sea, the cooks would make greasy pork chops.
Thanks, Tom.
I was born at the E.B. Rideout Hospital, which is right across from the old firehouse. And my funeral expenses have been paid, so I'll probably end up there. But in the meantime, I spent my first 20 years in Plaistow on Pine Street with my brother and family. And my brother and I, Marlon, we both went into the service. I didn't see him again for a year and a half, and I finally met him in the harbor of Leyte in the Philippines. And I said to my captain, my brother was over there on an attack transport. Can I go over and see him? And he said, sure, you can stay all night. Fine. So I went over, saluted the flag when I got on the ship, and I said, I'm looking for Marlon Collins. And they said, well, he's in sick bay. He's got ptomaine poisoning. But I did stay there that night, and we saw a movie, and I came back home. And I spent 27 months in the South Pacific on a gasoline tanker. So you talk about a survivor? I'm a survivor.
You always got something to say, something, Bill. Anyone else? No? Now's your chance, Galen. In closing, I think what we'd like to do next is to take some pictures. Well, yes, we'd like to get some pictures of the veterans. We want to get a picture of you for next year's town report. So
if you could kind of come together somehow. I don't know how to organize this. We want to try to get them all, but they're too spread out. And in the meantime, while we're doing this, I can tell you that we have refreshments here ready, so please feel free to start taking part in the refreshments.